Welcome to the comeback season, where we have real conversations about fueling your body, rebuilding strength, and stepping back into the life you were meant to live. Whether you've been caring for kids, aging parents, or just lost sight of your own needs, we see you. And this is your season to rise. Hello, my name is Nichole McLeod with Healthy Mind, Healthy Body. I'm a mindset and fitness coach and the author of I Started on a Tuesday. I know what it feels like to lose yourself in the chaos and still hold on to the hope that something better is coming.
And I'm Christi Kelsey from Christi Counts Macros, nutrition and mindset coach and food freedom advocate. I've worked with lots of women who felt stuck, restricted, and unsure where to even begin. Together, we're bringing you honest conversations, healing truths, and real strategies to help you rise again, physically, mentally, and emotionally, whether you've hit rock bottom or you're just tired of putting yourself last. This space is for you because this is your comeback season and it starts right now.
Welcome back to the comeback season. Today, we're digging into a conversation that touches every single one of us, whether we talk about it or not. We are unpacking the real differences between self-worth, self-esteem, and self-love, and how they're all connected. Because let's be honest, we often use these words interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. And when we confuse them, we can end up chasing the wrong thing, wondering why we feel still empty. This isn't about perfection or pretending you have it all figured out. This is about understanding how you see yourself, how you treat yourself, and how you show up in your own life. By the end of this episode, you will know exactly where you might be strong, where you might need some work, and how to start building yourself up from the inside.
We are keeping this real, practical, and doable. You'll leave with clarity on which one of these areas you're thriving in and which one might be holding you back from stepping fully into your purpose. So let's start at the very beginning. The foundation everything is built on, self-worth. Because if you don't believe you're worthy to begin with, the rest will always feel shaky. Your self-worth,
Oops, sorry. Sorry, buddy. Okay.
your self-worth is your inherent value, the deep, unshakable belief that you're worthy of love, belonging, and respect just because you exist. It's not based on looks. It's not based on achievements or other people's approval. It's the foundation everything is built on. It doesn't change. Your worth doesn't change, even when things are messy, when you've made mistakes, and you're just not feeling great. You're always valuable. So you might be asking or have asked yourself, am I enough just as I am? And the answer is yes. It's always yes. You could lose your job, you could gain weight or fall short of your goals and still believe you're valuable and worthy of good things. How can you step into your purpose if you don't first believe you're worthy of having one? When you finally believe that you matter, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are, everything shifts. I want to tell you about my client, Sheila. Sheila was having trouble staying consistent with her habits, and that was affecting her outcome. So I gave her an exercise to work on about her identity. So she dug really deep. She's a woman of deep faith, and through this assignment, she had this realization: I'm a child of God. And because of that, she recognized something really powerful. If she's a child of God, then she's already valuable. Her worth is not up for debate, it's built in. But it didn't stop there. She recognized that God gave me this body. It's a gift. And when you see something as a gift from someone you love, you treat it differently. You take care of it. you protect it, you honor it. That shift changed everything for Sheila. And her goals were no longer about punishment or fixing herself. They became about stewardship, taking care of something precious. It's like the difference between using your grandmother's fine china and a paper plate. You handle the china with care. You don't toss it around or leave it dirty in the sink. You treat it with respect. You hand wash it because it has meaning, it has history, it has value. And when you start seeing yourself as that fine china, something priceless, you show up for yourself in a completely different way. You make different choices. You create habits that last, not because you're forcing yourself to, but because you finally understand your worth.
That's good. That's really good. And I'm sorry to cut you off there, my friend. I didn't realize you're going into your story there. Incredible, by the way. But why is it that so many of us from every flock in life to whatever that saying is, we all struggle with the same thing. We all struggle with understanding that our self-worth is the foundation of everything that we do to think about ourselves. It literally dictates how we show up in this world. Like, think back, like right now, to the last roadblock of your day. It might have been yesterday, it might have been a couple days ago, but if you look back at all of your roadblocks that really trip you up, a lot of times those roadblocks are simply you not understanding your self-worth and what you're capable of doing in that moment. It was really, I guess, the moment for me was realizing that my day today in my almost 50s reflects a lot of the turmoil in my life that I struggled with in my earlier years. I'm sure that you agree that we can look back and we can say, okay, why do I have these thoughts? Why do I beat myself up for X, Y, and Z? Why is it so hard for me to just understand that I was put on this earth for a reason? And for me personally, I didn't have a day of my life that went by as a child that I was told I was worthless. I was, you know, incapable of doing much. I was yelled at, I was criticized, I was ridiculed. I wasn't allowed to eat dinner at the table with my family at the time, and little things like that that happened in my life. And then I realized in the last 5 years, these people pleasing tendencies I have of being noticed, of being, you know, I guess just, I don't want to say just love, that almost sounds dramatic, but when you realize that you're going through all these moments in your life that are tripping you up, and that the foundation of that is what you reacted or what you had happen to you in your younger years, and the fact that you haven't recognized that, I don't know if you agree that there's so many of us that struggle with that.
Yeah, and I think part of it is that this is not a topic that comes up in everyday conversations. We
It's
don't talk
not.
um, what we're worth and I don't know if you remember being a teenager, and I don't know if it was just the time period that we grew up in, but you didn't, it wasn't considered appropriate to accept compliments or, if someone
Mhm.
said you look nice today, you brush it off or oh, this old thing kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I think things have changed now, but this idea of self-worth just is not a topic that comes up in everyday conversation, but it affects us every single day.
We have to remember that how we see ourself is a direct reflection of how others will see us. When we think negatively, we are wiring a part of our brain that we will deviate back to every single time those emotions resurface. And this is why it's so important to look back at what happened to you in your formative years and what you went through in your childhood to realize that if you haven't faced those challenges head on and realized and healed that little girl or that little boy, you're going to keep repeating the same challenges in your life. And not only are you going to repeat them, but everybody around you and the people you do life with are going to repeat them, because that's the reflection, that's the energy that you're putting out. So if there's any reason in the world to really start taking this seriously, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, find your self-worth, know your love, I would have told you to just suck it up, buttercup. I think I've said this on like 3 of our episodes. And it sounds so silly, know your worth, but it's everything. So I want, if you're listening to this right now and you are the person that looks in the mirror and picks out every flaw about you and all the things you don't like, I want you to really start looking in your eyes and seeing what you're meant to be. And that worth inside of you is just wanting to come out. Your subconscious mind wants to, for you to become the person that you are meant to be in this world. And there's no way of you doing that and accomplishing and visiting all the opportunities that are going to be coming your way, that are required, or that is required to, what am I trying to say here? You're not going to be able to find your true purpose in life unless the foundation of your self-worth is present, really is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, but once you understand your worth, the next piece of that is self-esteem, how you actually evaluate yourself. So the self-worth is that foundation of, am I worthy of this thing? And then self-esteem is how you evaluate yourself in that process. This is where so many of us get caught up in the comparison game, the outside opinions that really don't matter to us, that might be a reflection of what we're inflicting on ourselves, and our own harsh self-talk. Because self-esteem is truly how you evaluate yourself. So let's break this down, my friend. Your overall opinion of yourself, and if it is guilt or shame, they're the lowest energy you can have. And the one, of course, that others can pick up on you as well. What are your thoughts on that?
I was thinking of, like my experience of being a mom. And when you have a baby and they look at you in your face, they don't see all your flaws. They don't judge you based on your mistakes that you've made in the past. They just love you for who you are. You're their whole world. And I think that's been one of the greatest experiences of my life. But
That's
yes,
good.
we do compare ourselves to other people a lot, and that can really hurt our self-esteem. And um, I think that one thing we don't do enough is just celebrate how far we've come in a journey. We're
Mm-hmm.
always looking off in the horizon to what we want for ourselves, or we're comparing ourselves to someone else, or even just an ideal. And often those things are not attainable. Like
Mm-hmm.
I will never look like you. You'll never look like me. And that's just a fact. So why do we compare apples to oranges? And um,
I like,
instead, like, this is how far I've come. This is where I used to be, and this is where I am now. And look at all of these things that I've accomplished in the meantime.
friend, that was so perfect about the baby analogy. That hit home for me too, because it's so true. And that really is how God thinks of each and every one of us. We are perfectly created, and perfectly created to do something amazing in this world that only you were created to do. We've talked about that too, that gift that you have, no one, how many billions of people have walked on this planet? Nobody else will be the same as you. Nobody else will be as unique as you. Nobody else will be able to reach the same people that you'll be able to reach. But you can't be that person for that change in this world if you're not understanding your self-worth. And to get there is having that self-esteem. Do you even like who you are? Let's talk about that. There's those days where I don't like myself. I'm disappointed. And yes, I let the comments of other people. And man, the hardest one, your loved ones, when you have a conflict with a loved one and they're spewing out all of and they know your weaknesses and they know what hurts you. They know the easiest way to hurt you. And so it's a lot of the times when those comments come your way that you don't know how to deal with them because they hit so close to home. So that's why it's so important for you to truly love who you are from the inside and stand firm on that. No?
Yeah, I totally agree. And one saying that my husband says a lot is whatever you look for, that's what you'll find.
Yep.
I love to compare that, or not compare, but apply it to this topic because if you are finding things about yourself that you don't like, that's what you're going to be looking for all the time. And it's just like
Exactly.
this loop. But if you're looking for things that you do well or that you're good at or whatever, that's what you'll find.
I was listening to a Mel Robbins podcast, and I think I've said that a lot lately because she's who I look up to right now and the way she's doing things. And we'll get there, buddy. We'll get there too. But she made a comment on one of her episodes that she has this game she plays where she sees or looks for hearts in everything and rock shapes, the shape of a heart. So she scans her room when when things are getting hard or just as something fun to do. And at first she's like, I didn't find them. But now daily she finds a heart in everything. Something silly. I noticed this repetition of numbers, 444. I was seeing these repetition of numbers in a row for the longest time. And then I started to be more mindful of it. I'm literally seeing 444 daily. And I know there's a lot of people that have opinions of what that means in numerology. I don't know what I feel about that, but the reality is I'm looking for 444 now, and I see 444 every single day of my life, and I have for over 2 years now.
Wow.
It's not I've literally manifested it. I've literally made my brain look for that. So what would happen if we make our brain look for the good in us? If
Mhm.
we sit back, I wrote in my agenda, I almost pull it up for everyone to see all the things that I do like about myself. And I played on to the why I feel this way and what others have said about me. And on those days that I'm low, I will open that page and I will remind myself of who I am to some people in this world. Because I may feel super crappy about myself. But just as you said with that baby analogy, somebody in this world looks up to you so much. You are their everything. And if you aren't showing up for yourself, you're not going to show up for others in the way that they need you.
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, I totally agree. So if self-esteem is how we feel about ourselves, self-confidence is about trusting yourself to do the thing. And the truth is, you don't always have to feel ready. You just have to believe you can figure it out. So self-confidence is your belief in your abilities, um, your trust in yourself to do something like speak up or try something new or take action. It's often skill specific and can grow with practice. You don't always have to feel ready to do it, but you just have this belief in yourself that you can figure it out. Can I do this? So, for example, when I first started going to the gym to lift weights about 3 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing. And I just knew that I wanted to get in there and start doing that. It was after the restrictions of COVID, and I missed going to the gym. I had the habit down, but I was changing from going to group exercise classes to actually lifting heavy weights. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I felt confident that I could figure it out. And with time and education and practice, I feel pretty confident now. And, it's this. So the difference between the first thing we talked about, which is our worth, that never changes. These other things, self-esteem and self-confidence, these things can change. These things can change. So here's a counterexample. When I was a kid, I took piano lessons for 9 years. I was a pretty confident piano player. But when I left home, I stopped playing the piano. I could probably not sit down and play those same songs, even some of the basic ones right now. I've lost my confidence in playing the piano. So that's something that can shift based on what you're willing to put into. Um, and, celebrating your wins when you're trying to figure something out is like putting a little deposit in your confidence bank.
100%. And so I wanted to touch on, when you said about the confidence, um, and believing who you are. When I was starting to launch fitness online here last year, I wrote about this in my book. I was so nervous. I was going through all of these emotions of what happens if I'm not good enough? What happens if I do this wrong? Oh my goodness, there's so many amazing trainers out there. And then I had to remind myself, you've been doing this for 30 years and it's who you are. Now, although I did take it too far and I did use fitness as a bit of my identity, which I learned the hard way, you never should use anything for your identity in life, but who you are to the core. Because when that thing gets taken away from you, you feel like you completely lose yourself. And when I got sick and I was injured and I couldn't train the way I did anymore, that was the big part of my pity parties and my loss of self-esteem. Because that identity that I had growing in me that I thought I was for 30 years, oh, I guess at that point it was 25, was taken in my, felt like it. And that thing that I was good at, I now no longer did. And then all of that self-esteem, self-worth, you know, compassion was just, I stripped from myself. And I did it to myself. I have nobody else to thank but me because I created that in my head. And it made me start thinking about the fact that we make love for ourselves transactional, worth for ourselves transactional. And I think we talked about this a bit. When I look like this, then I'll feel good.
Mm.
When this thing happens, then I will. How about you learn to love yourself now? And
Mm.
it doesn't come down to, being happy with what you look no matter what. Hey, if you're obese, no, of course you shouldn't love yourself any less, but you should love yourself enough to start getting your health in order so that you are going to live a long, healthy, healthy life. Obesity and a sedentary lifestyle is a number one killer. So if you love yourself and you have loved ones, encouraging them to move their body, encouraging them to eat healthy, encouraging them to have a positive mindset are all things they're going to help build up their confidence. Because I don't care what anybody says. Yes, you can love yourself and be happy, but man, there is nothing like living a lifestyle of fitness and nutrition and feeling your best, your strongest. And that won't be accomplished if you're just satisfied with living the sedentary life that you are. And then I wanted to talk on what you said about practicing. When you do anything, you are creating neural pathways in your mind, in your head. Every time you practice, you're strengthening those wires in your mind, in your head. So practicing anything, positive self-talk, negative self-talk, an activity, anything, is so important if you want to make that thing stronger within you. And there's no way of doing that unless you practice. So even if it makes you feel silly, be mindful and intentional to practice every single day, reciting the things about you that you know you love about yourself, reminding yourself that you're human, reminding yourself that you're going to screw up every single day of your life. And those mistakes that you make are not a direct reflection of who you are and how you show up in this world. Because remember, the only bad mistake is the one that you didn't learn from. I was a mouthful.
Well, I um, just want to point out that we can start to see how these things are interconnected. Like what you were talking about before was, we've when we have that sense of self-worth, then we see the value um, of the self-confidence of putting our skills into play and learning how to do things that support that self-worth.
Yes. Your feeling of captivity, like feeling stuck. And when I say feeling stuck that you just can't seem to see yourself for what you know you could be, feeling stuck in not being able to love yourself, feeling stuck with not being able to have that self-esteem you know you need to get to the next level in your life. That's coming from a fear-based mindset. And we have to remind ourselves of that. We have so much of our stress in life is caused, actually, all of our stress in life is caused from internal battles in our own mind. Stress is not external, it's internal. There's no external anything that creates stress in your life. Stress in your life is all to do with how you look at it. But realizing that in addition to that, the suffering is also internal. So we self-sabotage so much by not intentionally speaking life into us and choosing the suffering. You're not going to ever feel ready to start this. You're never going to be like, okay, I'm 100% ready to get out of my pity party. I'm 100% ready to stop feeling lower than I know I am supposed to feel or showing up for this world. But it's so important that you start, that you believe you can figure this out. Remember, 50% of your healing in your mind or even in your body starts with the simple fact that you need to believe it's possible. That the first 50% of that healing alone, even if you don't do anything else, is having the mindset that you're capable of healing. And it's not just about a sickness, a chronic disease. Healing the mind of the past trauma is imperative for you to truly understand your self-worth. And yes, it could come from a bully when you were in grade 3, that you listened to those words and those words were wired in your brain for all of these years. And then you entered into your adult years and nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to say, hey, these words that when I was bullied my entire elementary years are now carried with me into my adult years, and I still don't know how to manage those thoughts. So I'm just going to pretend they didn't exist. And then you let them go and you just ignore them for how many years, decades potentially. And then the next thing you know, you're repeating the same mistakes over and over. And now it's, maybe the childhood bullies are gone, but now the adult bullies are there. Your workplace bullies are there. And that's a real thing. We all know there's adult bullies out there that are just trying to knock you down and trying to, to make themselves feel better. But how we showed up for ourselves in elementary school when those things happen to us will be a reflection of how we show up as adults if we didn't do the work. So that brings us to a question. Can I even do this? What are your thoughts on that? How do you coach your clients through the, okay, cool, I need to start knowing my self-confident or help be more self-confident? What do we do?
Yeah. Well, I start by identifying the voices that we say in our heads. And there are different kind of voices that we hear. We have the perfectionist, we have the victim, things like that. And just kind of figuring out the tone of the voice and where that comes from, because those develop when we're young, and it starts off as a protection. We develop those things to protect ourselves, but as
Mhm.
we come into adulthood, it doesn't serve us any longer. But the thing is we're still listening to those voices. And that critic that we all have in our head can be a very loud voice in our head. And we just need to retrain our brain to think differently because the positive things come from a different part of the brain.
I
So
actually
that,
want to touch on that for 1 second. Um, actually, you know what? I'm gonna bring this up later on. Continue on, my friend.
no, I'm good. I'm good.
So let's
Um,
talk about self-love now
yes.
and caring for yourself. Because when we're not feeling great, we're not most likely going to be jumping on that train of self hygiene, let's say. My lowest days, my hardest days, I never thought I would ever admit to the fact that having a shower, making a meal were hard things to do. I probably would have laughed at you, but these are real. And we have to remember that these are real. And actually, maybe I will bring this up right now. Have you ever noticed in life when you're finally on track and you're finally heading in a direction that you feel good about, there's a million roadblocks. There's always somebody that's going to try that you feel that someone's trying to drag you down. Something catastrophic happens in your life. We have to remember, as much as there is a creator, there is also an energy out there that just wants you to fall down, that wants you gone. The devil is real, and he is out to steal and destroy and lie at any given time. And we have to remember that sometimes, guys, it's not in your head. Sometimes it is something on a different level, spiritual level altogether. And a lot of the times these days, especially when I feel that resistance, I know I'm onto something. And when I feel that resistance coupled with my self esteem going out the window, I know I'm onto something. And these days, my go to is to write it out. Write it out. Write out the truth and then write out the lie and why I know it's a lie. The simple act of pen to paper, thinking it, writing it down, visually reading it out loud is it works. It really, really works. And that brings us into why I feel that finding your self-love and how you care about yourself is so important. And it really is, just think of it as like the cream on top of that sundae. You know, it's the final, although it's not the foundation, it's a necessary piece.
Yeah. I think that when you put all of these together, the self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-love, it's like building a house. Each one has a role, but if the foundation isn't strong, the whole thing feels unstable. So let's talk about how these pieces connect and how you can strengthen them all at once. So here's how they work together. Think of self-worth as the foundation of the house. The house has value. The house is you. You have value no matter what. Self-esteem is the feeling inside the house. Is it cozy? Does it feel safe? Is it well kept or messy and neglected? And the self-confidence is the thing that makes you open the door and step outside into the world, into new experiences, into challenges, because you believe you can handle what's out there. You can know you're valuable, self-worth, and feel good about yourself, self-esteem, but confidence is what gets you to act on that belief. It's what moves you from thinking and feeling and into doing. And self-love is how you take care of the house, the cleaning, the decorating, the upkeep you do because the house matters to you. You set boundaries like locking the doors, you repair what's broken, you create a space where you feel safe and cared for. Now, I want you to think about your actual house. If someone came over to your house and left garbage all over the floor, They trucked mud in through the living room or wrote on your walls, jumped on your furniture. Would you invite them back in? No, you wouldn't. You would protect your space. But here's the thing, we don't always put that boundary up with ourselves. We let people's judgments, their opinions, their unkind words, their negative energy pile up in our inner house. And we let them leave their mess there. And sometimes we even hold on to it like
I
it
was
belongs.
just going to say that, even taking that a step further, we let it stay.
Yes, and even further than that, some people will hoard it.
Mm.
And part of self-love is saying, no, you can't leave that here. It's learning to lock the door and create boundaries and say, this doesn't belong here. This space is my space. I'm going to keep it safe and clean because your worth is too valuable to be trampled on. And here's the other thing. If my real house started to look like that all the time, if it was full of garbage and mud and broken things, I might start treating it that way too. I'd probably stop taking care of it and say, what's the point? But we do that to ourselves when we've let enough negative energy, judgment, other people's opinions pile up in our inner house. We start believing that that's what we deserve. And we stop taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, because somewhere along the way we forgot our value. But
Did you
here,
think of that? That was perfect.
yes, I
That
mean,
house analogy, you're so good at that. Man, you're good at that. I love it. And
that
I,
just shows you how these are all connected. They're all
yeah.
connected. You know, when I was a teenager, I developed a belief that if people saw me without my makeup on, they wouldn't like me. Because when I didn't have my makeup on, I was like a blank slate. I have very fair skin. My eyebrows are blonde. There's like not a lot of definition in my face, and I kind of hid behind that makeup. And so I was really scared to even let my friends see me that way. Um, but as I've gotten older, I've realized that my self-worth is not tied to how I look on the outside. But I've also realized that I know I have worth. I know I have value. And that's why I show up every day dressed, makeup on, hair done. It doesn't matter if I'm going out on a date or if I'm home cleaning the house. I've got my makeup on, I'm dressed. I take care of myself because I understand that connection between my worth and self-love. And I don't believe self-love is selfish at all. At all. I think everybody should take care of themselves. I think it can be taken too far. Don't get me
I
wrong.
was going to say that I think it shows up differently for some people, but the whole basis of what we're trying to communicate is the self-love and how you care for yourself. So if you're not a person that puts on makeup anyway, if the thing that makes you feel good about yourself is something else, do that thing. The
Yeah.
whole point of this conversation is to start putting thought into it.
Mhm.
Make your a choice that you're wanting to bring more care into your day and how that's going to look. Let's
Mhm.
talk about that. What are some things that you do? What some things that I do? Every morning I get up, I meditate, I pray, I read the word, I will work out, I will listen to a podcast, and I always take notes in my trusty notebook because it's important to solidify what you learn. I have my happy light that if it's cloudy outside or I can't get out, I will make sure I have that happy light on. Lymphatic drainage, anything with that. I do a lot of lymphatic drainage, breath work. So It's a game changer. So important. Any moment in my day where I feel that anxiousness coming on, first of all, my brain goes to anything I could be grateful for, and I breathe through it. Eating healthy nutrition, what you put in your mouth is a direct reflection of how you care for your body. I was talking to a client the other day that we got in this conversation about the dog, and our dog's not supposed to eat onions and chocolate, and she's adamant about these things and so good with it, but yet as a diabetic can eat all this sugar and crap. And I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. You won't give your dog chocolate or onions because it might sabotage, kill them, all these horrible things that could happen, but you're totally good with doing that to yourself. I had another client that was, she's like, I know my breakfast, I got to get better. I have yogurt and mini M&Ms in my yogurt. And all I said to her is, and she was young, she's in her 20s, are you going to give that to your kids to eat for breakfast? She's like, no. Okay. Then why are you eating it? I am not saying on any level to not love or to not have a treat, but come on, folks. It's everything. The nutrition you put in your body is going to be a direct reflection of how you even show up for the world. Your brain needs nutrition. If you are depressed, you are anxious. I'm not a doctor nor saying to come off of antidepressants, but I'll tell you what, I can't even count how many clients I have worked with over these 3 decades that were on antidepressants, that when they started eating healthy, nourishing their bodies, moving their bodies, and resistance training, they went off their medications and have still not revisited that era. So these are all things that we can do to bring light to our life. I totally
Yeah,
just took all over that. Tell us some of yours, friend.
that's okay. I do a lot of those things myself. Um, and I also, something that feels good to me is bookending my day with a walk. So I usually walk in the morning and I walk in the evening with my husband. I also lift weights at the gym. I do a little bit of face yoga myself. I like to work on my face and the muscles in my face, and I do a lot of skincare. I do masks and I do exfoliation, stuff like that. I like it. I think it feels good. And like I said, I wear makeup every day, all the way to lipstick, every single day. It feels good to me. Some people feel like that's too fussy, and that's fine.
Doesn't
I've
matter.
always done it, and it's one thing I like. And also try to feed my body really nourishing foods. And the more I'm still in the process of figuring out what foods feel good to me and what foods don't. But I have found that the more whole foods I eat, the better I feel.
Mhm.
And
Just
I'm
for
not
our listeners, what are whole foods? Some people may not know.
like as close to nature as they can be, like a banana or um, good lean meats, stuff like that, fruits and
Mhm.
vegetables, whole grains, stuff like that. So
Stay
anyway,
into the outside of the grocery store
yes,
when you do your
yes,
shopping.
yes. Less processed foods.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's not that I don't eat processed foods, but I just try to limit.
80-20 rule. And
Yeah.
and that's I always tell my clients that too. I love my treats too. I absolutely indulge at times, but I absolutely also make sure that I have had my nutrition in the day. I will
Hmm.
take the time to count my macros to make
Hmm.
sure I've had enough, especially if I'm in a season of training hard. I know I need my protein. I know I need to give my body that at the very least and make sure. So I will count at night. And I'm not saying to get obsessed with this part of it, because I also know a lot of people that do, and that in itself can bring you down another rabbit hole of other things. But be mindful, hold yourself accountable. Because remember, personal responsibility is how you respond. How you're
Hmm.
holding yourself accountable will be a reflection of how you show up for loving yourself. Because the reality of it is self-love is that evidence you believe in your worth. It's basically your worth in action. So what are you doing about it?
Yeah. And, just to go back to the house analogy, when those things pile up, it doesn't mean they have to stay there. Just because your house got messy doesn't mean that's the end of things. You can clean it up, and you can start today by um, helping clear out some of those negative thoughts. We're actually going to attach a document with this podcast that is an inner house cleaning toolkit. So just remember that your comeback starts the moment you decide to see yourself differently. And we hope that this episode has helped you see that you have value, you have worth, and that you're worth the comeback.
Because, my friends, we want you to hear us on this. Your worth was never up for debate. You were born with it. No mistake you've made, no label that you've created or carried with you, no season you've walked through can take that away. Because self-worth is the foundation. Self-esteem is the way you see yourself. And self-confidence is the way you show up. And self-love, well, that's the proof that you believe you matter. You don't have to get them all perfect, and you won't. You just have to start. You have to take the first step. You need to start with one thought you choose to believe, one kind thing you say to yourself, one small action that says, I matter. And here's the truth. When you start building from the inside out, you stop living for other people's approval. You stop performing and you start living from a place that's steady, grounded, and unshakable. So as you go into this week, ask yourself, which one of these four do I need to lean into today? Which one do I need to work on? Then give yourself the same encouragement that you'd give someone else that you love, because you deserve it, because you always have. You just need to find it, because this isn't just the comeback season. My friends, it's the becoming season. Thank you for joining us. Until next time. Thank you for joining us on the comeback season. Please remember, the conversations we share here are for informational and motivational purposes only. We are not licensed medical professionals, and this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or replace guidance from your doctor or your healthcare provider. Always consult your healthcare team before making changes to your nutrition, your fitness, or your mental health routines. Your health and well-being comes first, and we want you to move forward safely with the right support for your journey.